Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Neurodiversity Gold podcast with me, Jude Morrow. And today I want to talk again about further supports for autistic people, their families, and organizations. Because I mean, even with us being partnered with RTN Mental Health Solutions, yes, there is a diagnostic process that you can check out on our website. It's fast turnaround, lower cost at neurodiversity-training.net. But post-diagnostic support can be hard to obtain pre and post diagnostic support, I should say. And my guest today has been working for the charity Enfold, which does offer that support to autistic people, their families, and organizations. And my guest today is Mike Williams. Mike, welcome. Hello, hello, hello.
Good morning, Jude. Hi.
And I suppose with your journey with Enfold, it started with your kind of late diagnosis itself. So what was that journey like?
Um, Completely a 180 on my life, to be honest. I was at a point where I was completely lost. Didn't really know what was going on in my life. Was thinking I was just being a bit rubbish, to be honest, and not really getting it. Trying to put my effort into certain things and getting burnt out. Now looking back on it, I know what it was. So yeah, getting burnt out. Like I said, didn't really know a direction that I wanted to turn or where to go. And then I was working for a place in Northamptonshire, and we hired a gentleman who disclosed in the interview that he was on the spectrum. And the conversations that we started having around the support that we could put in place, it just felt like it was a mirror. It just felt like I was talking to myself and was like, oh, this could help. This could help me. This is helping me. Okay, right. So that carried on for a couple of weeks. And then I ended up helping a pop-up cafe over in Norwich for a friend of mine. I've got a bit of a background in hospitality as well. And she's on the spectrum too. And everything that she was talking about was like, oh, hang on a second. This is just ringing too many bells. So I started doing my own personal research then. And I ended up getting into a very confused place because there was about 10, 12 different diagnoses that I was looking at, all crossed over I even drew out a Venn diagram. I was like, I'm somewhere in the middle of this. So I started having a look at different pathways, different diagnoses, and this was just before the start of lockdown. So I eventually got through to the ADHD and autism team down in Northamptonshire. And they told me after my first conversation with them that it was a potentially 4 to 5 year waiting list. At that point, I was out of work. I was at a very low and dark place, probably the lowest I've ever been. And I wasn't lasting 4 or 5 years. I needed some answers pretty much now, on the spot. So I eventually found, after scouring the internet, I found an amazing lady called Zara Heath, works for Autonomy Plus. She does pre-diagnostic assessments, goes through the whole process with you. She's been doing this for 45 years. She's on the spectrum herself, so is her son. They both run the organisation. They support and have supported an awful lot of people. They also are connected then to a psychiatrist who, if she believes that the pre-diagnostic assessment is going to be a positive one, then you have a conversation with that gentleman afterwards. He runs through his process, and at the end of it, you are then offered your diagnosis. So instead of waiting 5 years, I waited 10 days. And after that, literally again, kind of my whole life just did a 180. I started getting a few answers, but then I also felt like I had a tidal wave more questions come. And I did feel like I was drowning a little bit. I was trying to get support from the people in the county, so NHS, IAPT, trying to ask around, even asking the autism and the ADHD team as well, but the waiting list was just at capacity. So I was kind of, again, floundering a little bit. And then I got a leaflet which said Enfold on the top. And then I had a few bullet points on the front, a couple of paragraphs. And for the first time, without trying to sound too cheesy or corny, it was the first time I actually felt like I had hope. And that was a tangible feeling. And it's something I still physically remember. Even get tingles talking about it. So I spoke to this lady, Diane, on the phone, who's the founder of the charity. A couple of days later, I started my first support session with her. And she took me through the whole initial support service that Enfold offers. and basically got me back to a point that I started getting those answers to the tidal wave of questions. I felt like I was getting more capacity back. I felt like for the first time I started understanding me, which I think is the biggest gift I've ever been given, that chance to actually learn about me properly from a neurodivergent lens, and an honest one at that. And from there, it's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster. Like I said, I started volunteering. I was then very gratefully, I was invited to be a board member to help steer the charity. Then a few months later, I got sacked from the board, but for very good reasons. They offered me a job. So I ended up working for Enfold, and I still am, which was, again, didn't think it'd be something I was doing, a complete 180 to where I thought my life was going. But it gave me the chance to start supporting people like me, families in similar positions that didn't have that information that I'd now gleaned. And the charity's been growing exponentially since. Yeah.
Which is great. And you know what? I had very much the same feeling, although I wasn't personally late diagnosed.
Yeah.
But whenever I suppose, became more open about it and started talking to people about it, you know, that feeling of finding your tribe, that's nice, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. It's speaking to people, even though they don't have the same life experience or the same life situation now, just having that level of communication and the interaction, the similar mindset, the understanding, the no judgment side of things of, oh, do you need a timeout? You need 5 minutes? Do you need a break? Cool. Okay. See you in a minute. Not why do you need a break? That's a bit odd. Why are you doing that? It's just, okay, cool. I'll see you in a minute. That's fine. And just that level of validation and empowerment that you get from speaking to your own tribe is incredible, to be honest.
And just looking up on the website, which I'll tell everybody is enfold.org.uk. That's enfold.org.uk. And we'll do the plugs again at the end of the episode. And your diagnosis came at 35?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd got a few years under my belt. Like I said, I felt lost pretty much for most of those years. I thought I was every now and then I thought I was heading the right direction. Every now and then I thought, do you know what? Yeah, I've got a bit of speed and momentum behind me on this one. And then all of a sudden, brick wall, burnout, complete back to square one. Like, where do I start again? How do I start again? What do I need to do to actually be successful, let's say? And I use that word lightly because I think success is very personal and individual, but I didn't think I was hitting it at all. But yeah, so just over 2.5 years down the line, I feel like I'm actually becoming successful in my own little way.
Yeah. And it's, to be able to proudly state your identity and, you know, how proud you are of it and how it's made such a difference to you. I mean, to me, that's a massive success. That's as big a success as you could possibly get. And not only that, but, you know, being able to use that experience to give value onto other people. I mean, it's completely precious. It's fabulous. And your title is a project manager, project kind of coordinator.
Yeah, project worker,
So,
yeah.
so what, so what projects are you running?
So at the minute, I'm personally involved in the initial support that Enfold offers, which is a free service. So we offer support to pre-diagnosis, during the pathway, or post-diagnosis. And it's tailored to either the individual or the families that we're speaking to. So if they need help around the HCP and support going through that process, that's what we do. If it's support about or advice around the diagnostic process themselves or having to look at what pathway is right for that individual, then that's what we do. If it's more a case of learning support strategies, coping strategies, how to get through the day-to-day, understanding burnout, executive functioning, anything along those lines, again, we tailor it and bespoke it to that situation. So no two support sessions are ever the same, which keeps you on your toes, but it's also very refreshing as well. It's nice.
What I love about this is what tends to happen, right? And I know we were talking this before you came online, you know, about a growth phase.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's probably very intuitive to go into things like group information sessions, group coaching, you know, whatever, you know, more money, less time. But I think having an individual element, especially when it comes to whether it's peer-to-peer support or given the right guidance and signposting the right people to the right service that could have an impact with them, I think is virtually unheard of for a growing charity because often the individualized element is mixed. Normally, when it comes to directories or support hubs or drop-in centers or whatever the sexy buzzword for them is this week, it's a case of dropping in, somebody gives leaflets, or there's an information session at a hotel somewhere with 50 other people, and you don't get the individualized element. And I think, if anything, with Fold, what makes it fabulous is that there is that individualized element. It's fantastic. So, where are you based?
So we're based in Northamptonshire. We'd like to be a little bit more past the boundaries of the county, but we are working towards that. Like I said, we are expanding. But yeah, I can't agree more with you on that. I think that personable experience, that living and lived experience, that understanding your own situation, that does give it such a unique element. And it's what Diane, the founder, is very, very passionate about. It's what I'm passionate about as well. To be fair, the whole team is. Like I said, we are expanding. Started off as just Diane, and then I was the first employee. And then we've taken on a lady called Tracy, who is amazing. She actually supported my wife. So we have another service called Befriender and Mentoring. So after the initial service, it's a case if you do feel like you need that support and a bit more of maybe a less direct but more soundboarding service. So you can ask questions about things coming up, or maybe have a little bit of a rant over a coffee. But she went through that service with my wife and helped her, because it was obviously a big difference for her. There was a lot of information coming her way too, and obviously dealing with what I was going through, because there was a fair bit I was going through from that information and change and understanding. So yeah, Tracy came on board, and then we've just hired, very recently, we've hired two more amazing ladies, Bea and Rachel. So the team is getting bigger. We are looking to expand even further, just so we can make sure that we can still offer that support as much as possible.
Which is great, and it's the first step toward Enfold and the world domination plan.
That's the plan. I
And
love that.
it seems to be with Enfold that uh, there's support for both, autistic young people and parents as well. And the one person which really caught my eye is the YAAP. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. This is a passion project that we're absolutely loving. So it all stemmed from, there's something called the AAP in Northamptonshire, which is the Autism Advisory Panel, and that actually helps steer the autism strategy for the NHFT, so the Northamptonshire Health Foundation Trust. And Diane's been part of that for years, I think since it started. I've been part of it. I kind of dip in and out, and that's more down to kind of health reasons. Over the last year or two, I've had operations and such that have just kind of kept me from being too much of a part of that, but I'm dropping back in soon. But there wasn't really a platform for young people to have their voice. The Autism Advisory Panel is all adults on the spectrum, either working in services themselves or volunteering their time to help improve and change services within the NHFT. But like I said, there wasn't really a platform for young people to get their voice heard and to impact the services that they're accessing.
Yeah.
So Diane took it upon herself, because she's got all the energy in the world and not enough time, let's say. But yeah, we've set up this group. So we've got a fantastic group of young people and young adults now. So the age range is 11 to 25. We meet every 2 weeks. We've got a session this Thursday coming up, and they get to say their piece. They get to be listened to. We have different services coming in with representatives, and they get into the nitty-gritty. They look at the communication styles, the information packs that are being sent out, either pre or post-diagnosis, say it's part of the autism and ADHD team. The packs that were going out, quite frankly, were very outdated. They were archaic. to a point, even some of the young people and myself reading them, we were like, this is quite offensive. This needs to change. And off the back of that, all the information that the young people have then either communicated, wrote down, spoken about, however it is they communicate, then they've gone. The team have gone away and started to change all the literature, how they communicate, and how they go about their job. And that's just one section of what they've been able to do since they started in the summer. But it's growing. We've got a fantastic group. Parents come along as well. And yeah, it's brilliant. Hopefully that can keep expanding as fast as Enfold is.
It is brilliant because well, whenever I was kind of growing up, I didn't really know that I was autistic, and such things definitely didn't exist. You know, to have a voice heard, and I think it's a fair enough statement because we've had a lot of charities come through our door, especially ones that are in kind of growth phases, and especially ones who either want to start or need to go in a different direction. And I remember before saying to a couple, like, is there a mechanism for the young people, the autistic young people, to have a say in how things are going, how things are progressed, either within the charity or outward? And it hasn't really happened. And that's, I suppose, one of the main reasons why I was so keen to talk to you, because I almost wanted this thing to be like almost like an autistic like youth parliament for the county, and that's pretty much what it sounds like, which is absolutely great. And even going on to the adult support groups, so there's a lot of like autistic adults that listen to this podcast, thousands and thousands per episode, and I'm sure some of them might be in Northamptonshire.
Probably.
So, what support groups do you have available?
So again, this was set up more to do with kind of how the charity was set up. We couldn't find the support either for ourselves or the people that we were supporting. So Diane again took it upon herself to go, right, we'll do it. Which again, just very refreshing to work for a person like that. Very, very much a go-getter. So we started off in Kettering. Diane runs that one. And they do a meeting, so they'll have bi-weekly meetings again, and it's run by the group. So this is the same for all three that we've got at the moment. So we've got Kettering, Northamptonshire, and then Wellingborough, Rushden. And we facilitate it. However, it's run and led by the group. So if they want more of a social time, if they want just a kind of play pool, jump on an Xbox, play a bit of VR, have a chat, have a cup of tea, then we can do that. We've done a boat ride down the Nen Canal. We've got a paddleboarding day coming up on Friday, and we've got another one next year, which fair play to Diane because it's going to be freezing for her to do that. Oh, that's the dog saying, oh, sorry, 1 second. Come here,
doggy.
Come here. Come say hello.
This is a dog-friendly show.
Come say hello. This is Missy.
Hi, Missy.
Say hello.
Big Andy Gold, welcome.
Yeah, she's saying hello to everybody outside at the minute.
Cheers, I can confirm that Missy said hello to everyone.
So yeah, like I was saying, it's led by the group. If they've got ideas, if they want to have more information around certain topics, maybe like budgeting for healthy meals, or maybe kind of executive functioning, or we've got a gentleman, Wayne, who's a paramedic. He's doing talks on first aid and how to either do personal first aid and then actually go into a little bit more technical stuff and having a look at different equipment, potentially if anybody, and God forbid anybody has to go in an ambulance or go into an emergency situation, but just being aware of maybe what equipment that they're using just to mitigate some of that anxiety around it, maybe some of the processes. So it's, like I said, very much kind of looked at from a neurodivergent lens because we can't do it any other way. But yeah, it's all led by the group, which is amazing. It's very, very exciting as well. Missy.
And then there's the High Five Parent Support Group. So could you or Missy say some more about the Parent Support Group as well? You seem to have a
I'll
lot
let
going
Missy
on,
do
which is great.
So the High Five Support Group was set up around I think it's about 13, 14 years ago now. And again, set up by Diane. She's got kind of her whole history is working and supporting either in the disability community or in the charitable sector. And she was approached by an awful lot of parents who had children that had either been diagnosed or going through the pathway of diagnosis of being autistic. And they approached her and said, can you help us set up some type of support group? So she did that. And then as she was going through that and listening to people go through their stories, listening to the children and the parents, she was like, huh, okay, this sounds familiar. This sounds a little bit like me. So that's kind of her catalyst, let's say, to go on the diagnostic pathway as well. And that group has been running, like I said, for about 12, 13 years now. And they meet up once a month. The parents meet up and have, again, different activities, different evenings, different speakers come in. And they also do different activities as well, bringing in the children just so they can have a good time too. So they go to the Scouts. They use the Scouts facilities. There's barbecues, abseiling, they do archery, there's BB shooting as well, and then kind of an activity area in the woods, which is lovely. They did camping. They had a weekend the other day at Rockingham Speedway, where it was a luxury and very fast car experience, which I was very fortunate enough to go along and take some pictures and also get to have a couple of rides in the cars too.
Nice.
But yeah, we've had some great funding come in for that, so we can start doing even more activities for the families as well.
So if someone's listening to this and thinking Enfold is literally the greatest thing since sliced bread, I want to be a part of this. How can people reach you, reach Diane, or get in touch with Enfold?
So the emails are really simple. It's either Diane or Mike at enfold.org.uk. Enfold is without the hyphen, so just ENFOLD. Website is www.enfold.org.uk. We've got an awful lot of very accessible information on there. Also a lot of different local organisations that we signpost to. If we feel that we can't support in certain areas, we're happy to hold our hand up and go, yeah, do you know what? There's better people than us that can do this. This is right for you. Yeah, there's contact sheets on our website as well if you do have any questions. But we're more than happy to have a chat over email if you do want to have a chat over the phone or even on Zoom as well, down to kind of your comfort levels. Just let us know.
That is absolutely lovely. And I would say, I would plead to everybody in Northamptonshire who's listening to this, please get in touch with Enfold. Support is there. There is a mechanism there. And even in years to come, if you're listening to this podcast, whether it's in, a year, 10 years or 500 years, whenever I've been long since cryogenically frozen. And Enfold, should I say, sorry, has dominated the entire world. Please go to your nearest Enfold digital office that's implanted in your brain. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. It's been lovely to chat. A very refreshing, all encompassing, and inclusive service. And once again, for everybody listening, that's Enfold without the hyphen enfold.org.uk. Thank you again for listening. Come back next week and we'll have more fun and giggles. Thanks from everyone at the Neurodiversity Gold podcast. Don't forget your ratings on your favorite podcast provider network.